Ishmael nodded to the stack of Bibles at my feet. According to the authors of that story, the people living between the Tigris and Euphrates River had eaten the God's own tree of knowledge. Where do you suppose they got that idea? What do you mean? Whatever gave the authors of the story the idea that the people living in the Fertile Crescent had eaten the God's tree of knowledge? Do you suppose that they saw it with their own eyes? Do you suppose they were there when the agricultural revolution began? I suppose that's a possibility. Think. If they'd been there to see it with their own eyes, who would have they been? Oh, right. They would have been the people of the fall. They would have been the takers. And if they'd been takers, they would have told the story a different way. Yes. So the authors of this story were not there to see it with their own eyes. How then did they know that it happened? How did they know that the takers had usurped the role of the gods in the world? Lord, I said. Who were the authors of this story? Well, the Hebrews. Ishmael shook his head. Among the people known as the Hebrews, this was already an ancient story, and a mysterious story. The Hebrews stepped into history as takers, and wanted nothing more than to be like their taker neighbors. Indeed, that's why their prophets were always bawling them out. True. So, though they preserved the story, they no longer fully understood to find the people who understood it. They have to find its authors. But who were they? Well, they were the ancestors of the Hebrews. But who were they? I'm afraid I have no idea. Ishmael grunted. Look, I can't forbid you to say I have no idea, but I do insist that you spend a few seconds thinking before you say it. I spent a few seconds at it, just to be polite. Then I said, I'm sorry, my grasp of ancient history is frankly negligible. The ancient ancestors of the Hebrews were the Semites. Oh, you knew that, didn't you? Yes, I guess so. You just weren't thinking. Right. Ishmael bestirred himself, and to be perfectly honest, my stomach clenched as the half-ton of him brushed past my chair. If you don't know how gorillas make their way from place to place on the ground, you can visit the zoo or rent a National Geographic videotape. No words of mine will make you see it. Ishmael lumbered, or shambled, or shuffled over to the bookcase and returned with an historical atlas, which he handed to me, open to a map of Europe and the Near East in 8500 BC. A blade like a hand sickle very nearly cut the Arabian Peninsula away from the rest. The words incipient agriculture made it clear that the sickle blade enclosed the Fertile Crescent. A handful of dots indicated sites where early farming implements had been found. This map, I feel, gives a false impression, Ishmael said. Though it was not an intended impression, it gives the impression that the agricultural revolution took place in an empty world. This is why I prefer my own map. He opened his pad and showed it to me. You see, this shows the situation 500 years later. The agricultural revolution is well underway. The area in which farming is taking place is indicated by these hen scratches. Using a pencil as a pointer, he indicated the area between the Tigris and Euphrates. This, of course, is the land between the rivers of the birthplace of the takers. And what do you suppose all these dots represent? Lever peoples? Exactly. They're not designed as a statement about population density, nor are they intended to indicate that every available stretch of land was inhabited by some lever people. What they indicate that this was far from being an empty world. Do you see what I'm showing you? Well, I think so. The land of the fall lay within the Fertile Crescent and was surrounded by non-agriculturalists. Yes, but I'm also pointing out that at this time, at the beginning of your agricultural revolution, these early takers, the founders of your culture, were unknown, isolated, unimportant. The next map in that historical atlas is 400 years later. What would you expect to see on it? I'd expect to see the takers have expanded. He nodded, indicating that I should turn the page. Here's a printed oval labeled Chalcolithic cultures, with Mesopotamia at its center. Closed, the whole of Asia Minor and all the land of the north and east, as far as the Caspian Sea and the Persian Gulf. The oval extended southward as far as the entrance to the Arabian Peninsula, which was a cross-hatched area labeled Semites. Now, Ishmael said, we have some witnesses. How so? The Semites were not eyewitnesses to the events described in chapter 3 of Genesis. He drew a small oval in the center of the Fertile Crescent. Those events, cumulatively known as the Fall, took place here, hundreds of miles south of the Semites, according to an entirely different people. Do you see who they are? According to the map, they were Caucasians. But now, in 4500 BC, the Semites are eyewitnesses to an event in their own front yard, the expansion of the takers. Yes, I see. In 4,000 years, the agricultural revolution that began in the land between the rivers had spread across Asia Minor to the west, and to the mountains of the north and east. And to the south, it seems to have been blocked by what? By the Semites, apparently. Why? Why were the Semites blocking it? I don't know. What were the Semites? Were they agriculturalists? No, the map makes it clear that they were part of what was going on. Weren't a part of what was going on among the takers. So I assume they were leavers. Leavers, yes, but no longer hunter-gatherers. They had evolved another adaptation that was to be traditional for Semite peoples. Oh, they were pastoralists. Yes, of course, herders. He indicated the border between the takers, Chalolithic cultures, and the Semites. So what was happening here? I don't know. Ishmael nodded towards the Bible at my feet. Read the story of Cain and Abel in Genesis, and then you'll know. I picked up the one on top and turned to chapter 4. A couple minutes later, I muttered, "Good Lord."